Okay, well, so Sensei Bill Wallace, thank you so much for having me. Tell us about you. How have you been and what have you been up to these days?
Well, for the last 6 months, we've had some problems with the coronavirus, just like Mexico. And just lately this month, I started going to doing seminars. Just came back from Indiana. The week before that, I was in Amarillo, Texas. And before that, I was in Mississippi. And next week, I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. So things are starting to move on again. So that's very good.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, it is so great that you have been giving all those seminars and you are still teaching all of us. So thank you so much for that, for doing that. Thank you.
We're getting old. We are getting old.
Well, but more wise. So that's great.
Experience. I like to use the term experience.
Yeah, well, Sensei, I really would like you to tell us a little bit more about Bando. I am the Bando representative here in Mexico. I train under Dr. G, and Del Minor. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about them and your experience with them.
Just the training, the training, working the combinations and working different techniques and so forth. And what we try to do is meld together our different experiences to where, Dale's got a way of doing something. I have a way of doing something. Master G has a way of doing something. So we take each different person's movements. See, the thing people don't understand is everybody is built differently. They have different strengths. They have different weaknesses. They have different flexibilities. But the most important thing is that we are different here psychologically. So when somebody does a technique, something's going to be a little different because of the way we're built. No two people will throw a punch exactly the same way. It might be close. It might be very, very close, but something will be different. I don't like to punch. I never did like to punch. I like my distance. So the distance allows me to do my kicking techniques. That's why I like to do the combination kicking, to keep that distance. My nose is still straight. There's no scar tissue and so forth. So, I like to keep the distance. I don't like to get hit. So I want that movement, the kicking technique. So you have to defend, you have to react. I tell everybody in the seminars, I learned to punch for 2 reasons. First reason was to keep you away from me so I could kick you. The second reason was to keep you away from me so I could kick you. So, it's just that way because I really enjoy the kicking aspect of it. I mean, there are a lot better punchers out there. So I want to be able to defend against those punchers.
Okay, great. Okay, so did you ever had a chance to train Bando?
Bando? Oh yes, I worked with Dr. G several times. He used to be part of the United States Karate Association several years ago, and he refereed my first fight with Joe Corley back in 1975. He was the referee.
Okay, awesome. Okay, great. And would you tell us something about your best fight ever, like the one that you remember like the best?
The last one. The last one was my best because it was my last one.
Okay.
All of them were the best for me because luckily for me, knock on wood, I didn't lose. So, sorry, knocking on wood makes the dogs bark. But
that's fine.
So my fights, I remember all of them. I can tell you everything that happened in every fight because all the times I got hit, times I hit those guys, because they're memorable to me. They were fun and exciting. Every time I would compete, it was not win or lose. It was win, but it was like the excitement of the competition, and it was fun for me. I never life or death situation. I just felt that you had to kill me to beat me.
Okay, nice, awesome. What do you think about the grappling arts, the wrestling, and all that? Did you ever do something about it?
I was a wrestler in high school and college. I wrestled
nice.
I wrestled at Ball State University, and I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in the service. I played judo in the Air Force. That's how I hurt my knee when I was in the Air Force, 1966.
All right. Okay, I didn't know that. All right. I had a chance to train and know a little Joe Louis.
Yeah.
I met him on the Bando events. He was a great instructor, a great martial artist, and he also told me a lot of stories about yourself.
It's a lie. It's a lie. Don't believe a word of it.
No. It was great. Besides him, and maybe the Jetkittsu and Bob Well, and who else would you say that is like on the top of the list on that era?
Well, in that era, there's a really good fighter from Toronto, Canada, from Ottawa, Canada, Jean-Yves Thériault. He was a light heavyweight, but absolutely fantastic. Don Wilson, a great fighter. Both of those guys, they were the same weight division, but they were great fighters. Great fighters. Jean-Yves Thériault, Don Wilson, Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith was the first light heavyweight kickboxing champion back in 1974, 75, 76. And then two guys coming out there. Howard Jackson, even though he lost, he was a fantastic fighter. The name goes on as far as kickboxers go, point fighters. Troy Dorsey from Texas. Demetrius Havanas, he got killed early in his career, but he was a fantastic fighter. You know, California had very good fighters. Like you said, Benny Urquidez. His brother-in-law, Blinky Rodriguez, was a very good fighter. Very good fighter. New York has some great fighters. Florida has some great fighters. The Midwest had very good fighters. So, you know, that is just, it depends on the day. Luckily for me, the day I fought, it was my day.
Okay, sure. Okay, and what would you say about the new fighters?
The MMA fighters,
Yeah.
they're much more versed in the activities. They're much more versed in the techniques. I don't like, even though wrestling is my first love, I don't like to see the grappling on the ground because now it looks like a street fight. And you don't understand, but pretty soon it's going to start showing up on the fighters. Because, you know, in a boxing match or a kickboxing match, you kick me or you knock me down. Well, I get a standing 8 count or an 8 count to get back up, right? There is none in MMA. If I fall down, you can jump on top of me and start pounding me. Well, let's say you hit me 8 times before the referee jumps in and pulls you off. But that's not really 8 times. It's really now 16 because I'm laying on the ground. When you hit me, my head's going to hit the mat. Bounce off the mat, and you're going to hit me again. I'm going to bounce off the mat. You're going to hit me again. So it's really 16 times. And every time you see stars, physiologically speaking, when you get hit and you see stars, brain cells die. It's a concussion. Whether it be a mild concussion, a light concussion, or a severe concussion, it's a concussion. And there's damage. And when brain cells die, they don't regenerate. They stay dead. That's why you take pictures of the brain and you see gray, dark gray, which is not good.
Okay. So what do you think about the UFC in general and the Gracie's jiu-jitsu? I mean, I have heard some stories about you telling that story, but I would like you to tell us what is the same. Well, tell us something about it.
When they had the Gracie matches in 1993. And he fought all these stand-up fighters. The stand-up fighters don't understand. If they're lying on the ground, on their back or on their stomach, there's no power. You can't punch, you can't kick, you can't do anything when you're laying on your back or when you're, you know, on your stomach and this guy's trying to choke you out. Gracie Hoist knew how to do takedowns. He knew how to do it. The number one takedown in wrestling is a double leg takedown. And Hoist was very good at it. And the first thing he would do, he'd come to your head with a technique, like a punch or something. You'd reach your hands and block it, and he'd drop right down, take you down. And a stand-up fighter does not know how to defend himself when he's on the ground. He never practices it.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I agree with you. Did Ken Shamrock was on that day?
Yep. Yeah. Got choked out. Got choked out by Hoist.
Did he was the only ground fighter?
Well, if you want to call it ground fighting, yeah. But see, again, if you ever watch Kenny fight, he didn't do very many takedowns. Matter of fact, he was taken down most of the time, but then he would do his stuff. If you notice when he fought Hoist, he dropped in for a takedown on Hoist. Hoist grabbed under his arm, grabbed his own belt, and choked Kenny out. If you notice at the end of it, they stand up, they're arguing back and forth, they're screaming and hollering at each other. Well, the uniform in jiu-jitsu, the entire gi, the uniform, is a weapon. You can grab the sleeve and choke. You can grab the pants. You can grab the belt and choke people out. People didn't realize that. So when it did happen, you can't do that. Who said you can't do it? There are no rules. The two rules are you can't punch me, you can't stick your fingers in my eyes, and you can't kick me in the groin. That was the two rules. And you can't bite.
Okay.
But you know, the stand-up fighters had no idea what was going to happen, but they found out very, very quickly. And I told everybody, I says, you know, Hoisties are going to take him down and choke him out, or get him under an arm bar. And because they don't know how to just, that's why I profess that, you know, what it's going to be is and you know, I don't apologize for it, but I don't mean it the way it sounds, is it was a 2-hour advertisement for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. Well, and why did you ever come back to the UFC as a judge or something like that? Why? What?
Never did. The reason for that is after the fight was after the competition was over, I started asking questions. Understand me what I'm asking is, they had a sumo wrestler there, right? What does this sumo do to win? He pushes you out of a little circle, right?
Yes.
Doesn't hit you, doesn't punch you, doesn't kick you, just pushes you out of a little circle, right? Okay.
Yes.
Why did they have a sumo wrestler and they didn't have a regular, like a collegiate wrestler or a professional wrestler? Because they got to pick the competitors. Yeah. Horian picked the competitors. So, you know, they asked, hey, you want to do this? You want to do this? Hey, we'll pay you this. We'll pay you this. So my question was, why didn't they have a regular wrestler that knew how to defend against takedowns? They knew how to defend against that stuff. And why didn't they had a boxer? They had a boxer, if you understand, never threw a punch. He never threw one punch. He got to wear his one glove. One glove was open, was barehanded, and one hand had the glove on. And he goes out there and fights Hoist and never threw a punch.
I know that you have talked about this information for a long time, but I really wanted you to tell us now here in my channel about the story. I'm sorry to.
But don't get me wrong. The competitors were fantastic. It was the first one, so nobody knew anything. Nobody knew anything except Hoist and Horian. They knew what was going to happen because they practiced for it. They knew what was going on. I'd seen them before do some seminars, and they're superb on the ground.
Right.
They're superb.
Okay. Well, I would like you to ask something completely different. I would like to know what is your relationship with people like Danny Nosanto and the Jeet Kune Do, and why would you say that there is no fighters doing Jeet Kune Do in the UFC? Is there like a law or something like that?
Jeet Kune Do is a fantastic art. It's absolutely fantastic. They have all these theories. The theories are fantastic, and the reasons why they work fantastic. But you know, it's like Kempo. You know what Kempo is? Kempo system?
Yes.
Okay. They have all these sets, not katas. They're not called katas, but they're called sets. That when you do this, I do this. And then when I do this, you do this, and I do this. So there's blocks and counters and all kinds of stuff when they do it, right? Well, in the Jeet Kune Do theory, it's the same exact attitude. When you do this, I'm going to do this. Well, but you have to understand, in actual fighting, there's combinations. So when I throw this back fist at you, you block it. Now you're going to break my arm. But at the same time, I throw this punch to your chest, but you're ready to grab my arm. So now you have no defense. Or if I throw the kick to the leg, you reach down to grab the leg, and I punch you in the face. So you know, the theories are absolutely fantastic, but it's how you put that to use. And you've got to put it to use in actual competition. when kickboxing first started here in the United States in 1974, we thought we were Billy Bad Butts. We thought we were tough because we could kick each other. We would punch each other. We'd knock each other out. Till we started working out with boxers. And boxers don't care about getting hit. They're just going to hit you back hard and often. So a lot of times when you have a karate guy or a kickboxer fight a boxer, the boxer would win because he's used to the contact. He's used to the in-close punishment. Whereas back then, the stand-up fighters had no distancing because they fought from a distance, like 5 feet apart, not next to each other. The boxers wanted to do that, but Hoist, as soon as that happened, took him down. Hoist took him down in the first, I think, 15 or 20 seconds. And he was on his back the rest of the time until he got choked out. So, it's like, that's why there were no time limits in the first one. In the first couple, there were no time limits. Why? Because the stand-up fighters had no idea what to do, so they're going to scram around, try to get out, do whatever it is. So he needs the time to get him in the right position that he wants to get him in. Hoist never threw one front kick, and that was it.
Okay, very, very interesting. Thank you, Sensei. There is other thing that I always wanted to ask you. I know that you have talked about how the sparrings were on your days, like they were tougher than they are right now. And it is something that I really like to hear, because I was trained by Dr. G and Dale Minor as the old school, we would say. And some people, the new fighters, are always telling me that I spar a little bit too hard. So when I heard you telling everybody, no, on your days, the sparrings were tougher, I was like, oh yeah, then I was trained as these people, and for me and to me it's like awesome. So it is true that that the sparrings have changed?
Oh, very much so, very much so. See, back when I was competing, back in the mid 70s, late 70s, early 60s, I meant early, mid to late 60s, and then very early 70s, we didn't wear equipment. It was barefisted, barefoot. So when we showed control, you'd hit and try to snap it back. So it was controlled. And if you hit me, good shot. Now I'm going to hit you back. And a lot of times, if I hit you in the face and it didn't cause blood, it was a point. If I hit you in the face and put your nose over on the side of your face, they'd put your nose back together and they'd give me a warning. And then, and it was because, in the black belt division, you had to be able to take it as well as give it. So, and that's what, then all of a sudden with the advent of safety equipment and the Taekwondo people, understand too, at the very first of it, back in the mid 60s and kind of late 60s, Taekwondo was just coming into play. Taekwondo was just coming up. And up to that time, groin kicks were allowed in tournaments. Sweeps were allowed in tournaments. Takedowns were allowed in tournaments. Throws were allowed in tournaments. Light contact to the face with punches was allowed in tournaments, right? Then the Taekwondo people come and say, hey, we would like to compete in your tournaments. And there'd be, you have a tournament, maybe 100, 200 people. So, the purpose for a tournament is money. So there might be 200 people in a tournament. Then this Taekwondo guy comes up and says, hey, I want to bring my 50 students to your tournament. But we don't want to have groin kicks because we do a lot of kicking. And we know you guys will kick us in the groin if we lift our leg up. So if you take the groin kicks out, take the sweeps, the takedowns, and the throws out, we'll compete in your tournament. Well, the promoter says, well, hold it now. Our guys are tough. They can adapt. They can still punch him in the face, still kick him in the face, still kick him in the body. Okay, sounds good. So now you have, rather than 150 or 200 competitors, now you have 300 competitors fighting in your tournament. Now you're going to make a little more money. So now with the adverse effect of having different systems fight in the tournament, you have to change the rules. It's just like, you're in Bando, so you're used to weapons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you understand an open tournament, having weapons, having the bow, having the sai, having the nunchaku, having to release that weapon in forms competition? You got to do your form. You have to release it. Why do you have to release it? Well, because it looks better for the public.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm loving what you're saying. I'm really loving what you're
But and that's what happened when we would fight each other. If you and I spar, the old days, I hit you too hard, let's say, I apologize. I won't mean it, but I'll apologize. And then I'm looking forward, not forward to it, but I expect to get hit back because it's not maliciously or anything like that, not to try to hurt each other, but that's just was tough sparring. And if you threw a technique to the body, if you threw a punch or a kick to the body, not only did you have to see it, you had to feel it. And I tell people every time I go, when I was competing in point tournaments, I threw the side kick as hard as I could throw it at you. Because I didn't want you to block it and hit me back. Because I knew you were going to try, if I did miss, you're going to try to take my head off.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, completely.
So if I knock you back, you can't hit me back, you know?
Okay. Sensei, could you tell me any story about you and my instructor, Dale Minor? Like, and I don't know, a story of you both training or sparring or anything you can tell me about my instructor?
Well, you know, we'd work out together with spar. You know, it was just, you know, when somebody says, let's spar, everybody smiled. Yeah, because now I can try my stuff on Dale. Dale can try his stuff on me, and we find out what works, what doesn't work. You know, if you think about it, in Jeet Kune Do, how many different techniques are there? Hundreds. In Taekwondo, there's hundreds. In a Japanese system, Okinawan system, there's hundreds. But when you spar, how many do you use? 4, 5.
2, 1, 3.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to find out if that works for you. Well, I had 5. I had a side kick, a roundhouse kick, and a hook kick, a back fist, and a ridge hand, all with the front side. So for me, and don't take this as a brag, please, but it worked against everybody. Because I had one, if you're right side forward, I had the hook kick and the back fist. If you're left side forward, I had the front leg roundhouse kick, the side kick, the back, and the ridge hand. So that all worked for me no matter what stance you did. And that's what people try to do. Think of all the techniques we've been given. And you use the ones that you like. And that's what it's all about. It's the guy that says, well, I use everything. No, he doesn't. If he uses everything, he loses. He's got
I agree.
He's got 4 or 5 techniques that he really likes, can use on anybody, and they're effective.
Okay.
Think about boxing. In all of boxing, since day one, there's 4 punches: the jab, the cross, the hook, and the uppercut. That's all there is.
Yes.
That's all. But these guys can work these things absolutely fantastically and in great combination together.
Yes, it is true. Yeah. Well, did you ever had a chance to train this fist with the finger up here, the Bando fist?
In the Shorin-ryu system over in Okinawa. That's where you started with the thumb.
And what do you think about it?
Great. It's great. If you make a fist this way, and I throw the punch and hit your sleeve of your uniform, your gi, it's going to rip that thumb dead off. But if I have the thumb here, now it hits there and slides. See, because if you look at the angle, it slides, so it can slide off. Plus, it's thinner, so it can go deeper into the target.
Thank you so much. Those were the questions that I was looking forward to ask you, because now that I am doing my YouTube channel, I have tons of people all around the world asking me about the Bando and about the fist and about Dale Minor and all the things that are not as popular as some other martial arts are, because as you know, Bando is a non-commercial, non-profit organization, or at least it was for many years. So to have somebody like you to tell us this is awesome.
It's a way of doing something. It's not the best. It's not the most powerful. It's not the quickest. It's not the strongest. It's a way. Dr. G did an absolutely fantastic job teaching everybody. But he was fantastic. People don't know this, but back in I think it was 1956, he took second in the Olympics in boxing.
Okay, nice.
Representing Burma. Represented Burma in boxing? Come on. But he was superb and a fantastic individual.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much. It is so interesting to me to hear all of your stories. So I hope maybe in the future you can come back to my YouTube channel and talk a little more.
We'll do it. I'd love to sometime. Tell all your constituents that I do a Zoom class. We just finished the one this Wednesday, but we're starting a new Zoom class in about 2 weeks on the Superfoot method, the kicking, the punching, the combinations and so forth. And check superfootsystem.com.
Sure. Yeah, please. Definitely.
We'll get you to work with us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. I will, if I can help you in any way possible, I will be so happy to do it.
Are you in Mexico City right now?
I am in Mexico City. Yes.
See, my wife was there when we were there. I think 2010 we were there.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, next time you come, please let me know, and I will be happy to show you around. Or
we'll do it. We will do it, my friend.
You have a house in Mexico City. Anytime you want, I will be happy.
Muchas gracias.
So thank you for your time. I hope to talk to you in the future, and thank you for all your time and stories.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.